Imagine being 7 years old. You are standing on top of an abandoned red railway car on a rural farm in Idaho.
Just looking out over this massive valley.
Exactly. The wind is whipping your hair across your face, and you are a living, breathing, thinking human being. But according to the state you live in...
And the federal government.
Right. According to the government and the rest of the civilized world, you simply do not exist.
It's a wild thought experiment.
It really is. You don't have a birth certificate. You don't have any medical records because you have literally never seen a doctor or a nurse.
Not even once.
No. And you have zero school records because you've never set foot inside a classroom. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a truly remarkable stack of source material today. We're getting into the front matter, the introductory notes, and the opening chapters of Tara Westover's memoir, Educated.
And the mission for our deep dive today is to really, to fundamentally understand the psychology of extreme, off-the-grid isolation.
Which is heavy stuff.
It is, yeah. We are going to explore how family narratives completely construct a child's baseline reality from the ground up. And beyond that, we want to look at the deeply complex tension between a parent's intense desire to keep their family safe.
Or what they perceive as safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a human being's fundamental need to forge an independent identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp what is happening in this source material, you have to understand the physical setting.
The geography is crucial here.
It's everything. We are on Buck's Peak, a mountain in Idaho. And this mountain isn't just a scenic backdrop for the family. It's treated almost like a living, breathing entity.
Yeah, specifically this one rock formation.
The Indian princess.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so the father tells the kids that she emerges every single year when the heavy snows melt. She faces south, and that's the signal that winter is finally over and it's time to come home. The mountain is literally their entire world.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, I actually want you, the listener, to pause and think about the geography of your own childhood. How did the physical spaces you grew up in define your early sense of security?
Well, yeah, that's a great question.
Because for this family, the mountain acts as the ultimate protector. But, and here is the catch-up protector, can very easily become a prison wall.
It's a physical boundary keeping the rest of the world out.
Exactly.
And that physical boundary creates some startling realities, like Tara's non-existence. 4 of the 7 children in this family have no birth certificates.
Which is just staggering to think about today.
It is. The father is deeply, fundamentally suspicious of the government, which he ominously calls the world of men. He genuinely believes that public school is a deliberate ploy to lead children away from God.
But, and I love this detail, this level of extreme isolation isn't accepted by everyone in their extended family.
No, not at all. And her grandma down the hill.
Such a great character description.
She wears these heavy clumps of faux Indian jewelry, silver and turquoise. And she dyes her hair pitch black with these thick, intensely drawn-on eyebrows.
And she has a secret plan.
A huge secret plan. They're just sitting around eating cornflakes one morning, and she leans in. She tells young Tara that she and Grandpa are driving down to Arizona for the winter, and they are taking Tara with them.
Specifically to put her in a normal public school.
Yes. Now let's pause to look at how a normal child might react to that offer.
Right, an average kid might be, I don't know, excited about a road trip, maybe a little nervous about a new school.
Sure, but Tara doesn't pack a bag with excitement. She is completely terrified.
Pure dread.
She stays up all night long. She stares at her boots sitting by the door, which are just entirely caked in farm manure. And she's absolutely certain Grandma won't even let those dirty boots inside her clean car.
So she imagines the boots just left abandoned on the porch.
Yeah, and worse than that, she pictures what will happen at dusk when her family realizes she has been taken.
Oh, the search party.
She envisions her brothers desperately searching the junkyard and then having to sweep the dangerous mountain in the pitch dark, looking out for feral horses,
Rattlesnakes?
sheer cliff drop-offs. She is agonizing over this. Why is her reaction so extreme to an offer of a normal life?
What's fascinating here is the concept of psychological inversion.
Psychological inversion.
Right, so to Grandma down the hill, taking Tara to Arizona is a rescue mission. She wants to give her granddaughter an education, a social life, a way out.
A normal life.
Exactly. But a child's baseline reality is entirely formed by their primary caregivers. Tara has been raised from birth to believe the outside world is inherently corrupt, godless, and physically dangerous.
So the rescue.
The rescue looks exactly like a kidnapping.
Wow.
The outside world isn't an opportunity to her. It represents the destruction of her family. And this raises an important question for you listening. Reflect on moments in your own life where something completely normal or benign to everyone else felt terrifying to you,
Mm.
simply because of how your family or your culture conditioned you to view it.
That conditioning permeates absolutely everything they do, even breakfast. This is where it gets really interesting.
The honey incident.
The honey incident. One night, the father is sitting with the family, reading aloud from the book of Isaiah. He reads a prophecy about Emmanuel eating butter and honey so that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good.
And he interprets this ancient text.
Incredibly literally. He suddenly decides the Lord is telling him that dairy is evil.
So out goes the dairy.
The very next day, he completely purges their refrigerator of all milk, all yogurt, all cheese, and he comes home with 50 gallons of honey.
50 gallons.
50 gallons. And Grandma down the hill happens to be there for this revelation.
Her reaction is priceless.
She laughs right in his face.
Mm.
She actually tells him she has some loose pennies in her purse that will amount to all the cents he's got.
Grandma is fearless.
She really is. But for the kids, the reality of the sudden pivot is brutal. Every single morning, they're forced to eat this dense 7-grain cereal. And because all the milk was thrown out, they have to eat it with tap water.
Tara describes it as eating a bowl of mud.
A bowl of mud. It's almost humorous in retrospect to think of this giant stockpile of honey, but it demonstrates how quickly and absolutely the father's spontaneous religious whims dictate the physical reality of his children.
And that absolute control quickly turns much darker.
It does. It really does when the father sits them down to tell them the story of the Weaver family.
Yeah, he gathers the whole family around their heavy red oak kitchen table. He tells them a story about a family he calls freedom fighters who were surrounded in their rural cabin by federal agents.
He tells his kids, who are very young, keep in mind, that a young Weaver boy was shot in the back by the feds just for sneaking out to go hunting.
And he tells them the mother was shot through the door while holding her baby.
Now, how does a father casually telling his kids about a federal shootout rewire a child's brain at that age?
It shatters their sense of safety entirely. And I want to be very clear here. Regardless of the complex politics of the time or the specific details of that real-life standoff, our focus has to remain entirely on the living room where this story is being told. We are not taking political sides here on government overreach or survivalist narratives.
Right. We are looking purely at the psychological weight dropped onto a child.
Exactly. Because the father used this story to enforce a state of absolute survivalist panic in his own home. He looks at his children and tells them, next time, it could be us.
It could be us.
From that moment on, Tara's baseline reality is built on a foundation of constant impending siege.
And that fear becomes incredibly tangible in their daily routine. To prepare for what the father calls the days of abomination, they spend their entire summers boiling and skinning hundreds of mason jars of peaches.
Hundreds of them.
The father drags these old army bags up from the basement. He calls them head for the hills bags. They pack them full of MRE's meals ready to eat, those pre-packaged military rations.
Designed to last for years.
Right. Along with flint and steel and various herbal medicines, Tara's bag is literally as big as she is, and she sleeps with it right there in her bed.
And then there are the weapons.
The father brings home military surplus SKS rifles. They came thickly coated in cosmoline.
That heavy, waxy, rust-preventive grease used by the military.
Yeah, so her brother Tyler spends hours cleaning the grease off. He wraps one of the rifles in black plastic and silver duct tape, and he buries it in the dirt near that abandoned red railway car.
They even bolt a bullet-making machine to the concrete floor in their basement.
It's intense preparation.
Consider the level of hypervigilance this demands of a young mind. Tara lies awake at night, constantly playing out these violent scenarios. She hears the sharp chirp of summer crickets out in the field.
Just normal summer sounds.
Right. But in her panicked mind, she literally conflates that harmless insect sound with the imagined gunfire of federal agents shooting her mother at the kitchen sink.
That absolute certainty that violence is coming for your family is a crushing burden for a child to carry.
It is.
With the father enforcing this level of absolute paranoia, where is the mother in all of this? How does she survive it?
Her journey in these sources is just incredible.
It really is. The father decides that to be truly self-reliant for the end of days, they cannot rely on the medical establishment. So he pushes his wife, Faye, to become a midwife.
A role she actively and vehemently resists at first.
She is utterly terrified of the responsibility.
Completely terrified. She insists she is just an herbalist, merely an assistant to Judy, the local unlicensed midwife.
But then Faye attends her very first birth, And things go terribly wrong. The mother hemorrhages badly. The baby is born purple with the umbilical cord wrapped tightly around its neck.
Faye comes home from that experience trembling, pale as an egg.
She outright tells her husband she cannot do it. She begs to stop, but he overrides her, telling her it is a calling directly from the Lord.
The dynamic completely shifts, however, when Judy, the experienced midwife, moves away to Wyoming.
Suddenly, Faye is the only practicing midwife for 100 miles in any direction.
Women with swollen bellies start showing up at their farmhouse, pleading for her help, because they simply cannot afford a hospital birth.
And we get to watch this incredible metamorphosis happen in real time. As Faye is forced to deliver more and more babies, she physically changes.
She stops wearing makeup entirely.
And more importantly, she stops apologizing for not wearing it. She takes charge of her space. She starts buying professional equipment like a heavy oxygen tank. She drives to town to take a suturing class so she can stitch women who tear during labor.
And crucially, she starts earning thick envelopes of cash, about $500 per birth.
That brings us to the core paradox of the father's master plan.
It's pure irony. He forced his wife into unlicensed midwifery to disconnect their family even further from the government and mainstream society. But instead, it tethered her directly to the outside community.
It made her a vital, indispensable resource.
And entirely by accident, it gave his wife financial independence and immense self-confidence.
That new confidence absolutely shines through in a story of high-stakes subterfuge. Let me set the scene for this. Faye is at a home birth where the baby's heart rate drops dangerously low. It's a massive emergency.
Life or death.
Right. She has to rush the laboring mother to the hospital in her own car, driving so erratically fast that she actually gets a police escort to the emergency room.
Let's pause on the stakes here. Because midwifery isn't legally sanctioned in their state at this time. If Faye is caught acting as a medical professional during an emergency, she could face severe criminal charges for practicing medicine without a license.
She is walking right into the belly of the beast.
Exactly.
So she has to think incredibly fast the second they wheel the mother through the ER doors. Faye brilliantly decides to play the scatterbrained woman.
This is a smart move.
She tells Tara later that male doctors love to play the hero for a brain-dead woman in a scrape. So when the attending doctor aggressively questions her presence and asks what she was doing at the home, she feigns complete and utter ignorance.
She puts on this high, coquettish voice.
Yes, and asks, "Oh, was that the baby's head? Aren't babies supposed to come out feet first?"
Incredible.
And it works perfectly. The doctor is totally convinced this clueless woman couldn't possibly be a practicing midwife.
It is a masterful, deeply calculated performance.
Right.
And she begins using this new leverage at home, too. With her private envelope of midwife earnings, she decides they finally need a telephone.
Something the father has aggressively resisted for a decade.
Right. When the telecom installation guys show up at the house and the father demands to know what is going on, Faye just looks at him with wide, innocent eyes.
She plays him perfectly.
She says, "I thought you wanted a phone. You said there could be trouble if someone goes into labor and Grandma isn't home to take the call. Did I misunderstand?"
She completely outmaneuvers him, using his own logic against him.
And she gets a lime green telephone installed right there on the kitchen counter next to her jars of herbal tinctures.
Things like cohosh and skullcap, traditionally used for pain relief and anxiety, it's such a quiet, massive triumph.
It truly is. Stepping up to a terrifying responsibility, especially one you never wanted in the first place, can accidentally unlock your own hidden autonomy. The father thought he was forging an obedient end-of-days servant. Instead, he accidentally created an independent businesswoman who could outsmart him.
So what does this all mean for Tara and her siblings? Well, that lime green phone kicks off the next major saga in the household.
The absolute nightmare bureaucracy of identity.
Because the oldest brother still living at home, Luke, decides he wants to take driver's ed so he can get a job driving commercial trucks.
But to enroll, he needs a birth certificate.
Which means the family finally has to confront the very system the father has spent their entire lives hiding from.
Faye decides that if she has to go through the trouble of getting a delayed certificate for Luke, she might as well get them for all 4 of the undocumented kids.
But she has zero proof they exist. She's standing there on her new lime green phone, straining tinctures of golden seal.
A root often used as a natural antibiotic.
Right. She's straining golden seal while arguing for hours with government clerks in Salt Lake City. And the core of the issue, the reason it's so difficult, is that Faye literally cannot remember the exact days her children were born.
She thinks Tara was born sometime in late September.
She thinks Luke was born in maybe May or perhaps June.
The clerks on the other end of the line are completely baffled. They keep putting her on hold, passing her up the chain of command, because the massive machinery of bureaucracy simply cannot process a human being without a date of birth.
To the state, you cannot be a recognized person without a birthday.
Tara talks about how strangely dispossessing it felt to finally receive her delayed certificate of birth in the mail years after she was born. It was the very first time it ever occurred to her that proof of her personhood was even a requirement.
To really understand how Faye ended up leading this chaotic, undocumented life on a mountain, making these frantic phone calls with no birth dates, we have to look back at her backstory.
Because Faye didn't grow up on a junkyard preparing for the apocalypse.
Far from it. She grew up down in the town, living in a neat yellow house with a pristine white picket fence lined with purple irises.
Her mother, Grandma LaRue, was a highly skilled seamstress who was utterly obsessed with respectability.
Grandma LaRue spent her days making perfectly tailored velvet jackets and immaculate gabardine dresses. And she did this specifically to hide the deep, crushing social shame of having an alcoholic father in a very strict, pious community.
She wanted to aggressively construct the appearance of the perfect, flawless family to shield her daughters from the contempt and pity she had faced growing up.
But Faye found that forced perfection completely stifling.
There is this incredibly vivid, heartbreaking memory Faye shares with Tara while Tara is getting ready for church.
The cream shoes story.
Yes. Faye recalls agonizing all morning long with her own mother over whether to wear white or cream shoes with her outfit. They obsessed over it to the point where they were going to be late for church because Grandma LaRue panicked and actually drove to a cousin's house just to borrow a different pair of shoes with a slightly lower heel.
Now, cut to the present. Faye is telling this story while looking at young Tara. Tara is just using a wet cloth to wipe the visible dirt off her neck, and she's putting on her one and only pair of shoes, which are black.
And Faye seems almost jealous of the freedom that the junkyard provides her daughter.
If we look closely at that memory, we see that Faye's entire adult life is a fierce reaction to those cream shoes.
Her complete rejection of her mother's rigid, appearance-obsessed world drove her straight into the arms of Gene, a rugged, highly unconventional man from a volatile mountain family.
She willfully chose the chaos, the physical danger, and the isolation of the junkyard over the stifling, manicured perfection of the white picket fence.
Think about the pendulum swings in your own family history. How often are our major life choices just a violent overcorrection to the way we were raised?
Faye ran as fast as she could from the suffocating order of her mother, only to trap her own children in the suffocating chaos of her husband's paranoia.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. The overcorrection becomes its own kind of trap.
So, as we wrap up today's deep dive into these opening chapters, let's pull all these threads together. We've explored how a parent's extreme worldview can entirely overwrite a child's reality,
Turning a normal trip to Arizona into a feared kidnapping.
and turning the peaceful sound of crickets into the terrifying sound of a government siege. We've seen the incredible, almost surreal difficulty of establishing a basic legal identity when you've been deliberately hidden away from the world.
We have also seen how personal power can be clawed back in the most unexpected and terrifying circumstances. Faye found her voice, her leverage, and her independence through the very unlicensed midwifery that was originally meant to isolate her further from society.
It's a profound testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even when that spirit is buried under piles of scrap metal and intense survivalist paranoia.
To leave you with a final lingering idea to mull over today, I want to draw directly from the epigraph quotes at the very beginning of this source material.
They set the tone so perfectly.
They do. The author includes a quote from Virginia Woolf, who noted that the past is beautiful because one never realizes an emotion at the time. It expands later. She pairs this with a quote from the philosopher John Dewey, who stated that education must be conceived as a continuing reconstruction of experience.
A continuing reconstruction of experience.
Consider this as you go about your day. True education isn't just about sitting in a formal classroom, the very thing Tara was denied for so long. True education is the painful, ongoing process of looking back at the crickets and gunfire of your own past, reconstructing those fractured memories with adult eyes, and finally deciding for yourself what your reality is going to be moving forward.